In today's video, we have breaking news. Letitia James has officially been indicted on fraud charges. Secondly, a federal judge just blocked President Trump from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago. And finally, does the president deserve a Nobel Peace Prize? Well, in this story, I'm going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
Senator, I'm going to ask you to stand by for me for just 1 second, and I would like to come back to the senator to get her to react to this immediately, but we do need to get to this breaking news out of the White House with Kristen Holmes. Kristen, I understand we have some legal breaking news.
Yeah, we have just learned that New York Attorney General Letitia James, who obviously brought the charges and won against President Donald Trump, has just been indicted by the Department of Justice. This was a case that President Trump wanted to be brought. It's a mortgage fraud case, and it's also what led to the leaving of the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia.
Okay, so finally, this case has moved forward to an official indictment of Letitia James, who we know got her success legally here, politically here speaking, by going after a former president at the time named Donald J. Trump. And I think we have to stop being naive here. If you think you're going to target a president of the United States, there's only been 47 so far, you don't think that's going to come back on you in some way, shape, or form, especially if you have committed crimes yourself? That's what we discovered with Fani Willis. She had a dirty closet, and we see what happened to her. Now, let's get the left's response to this, because you guys know we like to show you both sides. This is Senator Slotkin reacting to this as soon as it broke. Take a listen.
Yeah, well, obviously I haven't seen any of it. I'm just hearing it for the first time, but it just is part of a bigger trend of the President of the United States using the Department of Justice, using the legal system to go after political adversaries, using the arms of our democracy to go after political adversaries. Whether it's Comey or now James, Lisa Cook on the Fed, Adam Schiff here in the Senate. And if that doesn't send a shiver down the spine of anybody, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, because turnabout, I mean, you know, another administration could be in and suddenly the arms of the government are being wielded against the Republican Party. It's just a broken way to do politics. It's corrupt. And I think that, you know, anyone who cares about the Constitution and cares about our institutions surviving should care that the President of the United States is using Pam Bondi to do his bidding against adversaries.
Well, the interesting thing about what the senator had to say there is that she's acting like this hasn't happened before. And I understand this falls in the category of whataboutism. What about this and what about that? But I have to tell you, it's the initial thought that comes to mind, which is what happened under the Biden administration? How many people did he prosecute? How many livelihoods did he throw in the trash? And let's not forget, they did try to throw a president into prison, okay? They really did try to do that. They have a mugshot. Do we need to remember that? So I'm not feeling bad or sorry or even troubled or concerned about our country when I hear someone like Letitia James has been indicted, especially when the evidence proves that she did commit a crime. Now, here's Scott Jennings because he reacted to what Senator Slotkin had to say. Take a look.
If Democrats like Slotkin are going to come out today and whine about selective prosecutions over Tish James, her entire career is built on the selective prosecution of one man. Now, I also believe what Elliot said. There's a process here. Everybody gets their day in court. Obviously, a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges. We don't know what they are, but a grand jury looked at this and says, okay, there's something here. She gets to go to court just like Comey, just like anyone else. But to me, it's just not going to fly to boo-hoo over selective prosecutions on this particular person who promised in her campaigns, who went after him on things, as Jonah said, that had no business ever happening, if not but for the man's last name being Trump. So I'm not going to.
How is that not a two wrongs make a right argument?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying she gets her day in court. I'm saying a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges, and I'm saying she gets to go to court and tell her side of the story.
That's exactly right, and that's the way the justice system works. She will get her day in court, and there's no guarantee she's going to be convicted. And even if she is convicted, that still doesn't guarantee she will lose her law license and her career will end. That it doesn't mean any of that. But this is bad publicity. Politically, this is bad, we know, and it's a huge distraction for her. No question about it. But she will find, I guess, some comfort in all of this because she's going to play the victim. And the interesting thing is, if you pay attention to when she finally makes a public appearance and reacts to this indictment, I guarantee you she's going to say the same words that Donald J. Trump said when he was indicted. So I find that to be interesting. But why don't we just cut to the chase? How good or how tight is this case that the prosecution has against her? Well, here is one perspective from CNN. Take a look.
How strong of a case do you think the Justice Department has? And separately, but relatedly, Lindsay Halligan, who is the acting U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, she is bringing indictments that it sounds as though people in the Eastern District of Virginia thought would be difficult to prove in a court of law. That is a higher standard than bringing an indictment. How big a task does she have ahead of her?
Well, look, mortgage fraud is something that's been used in many circumstances in other political cases. You got to remember, we sent Bernie Kerik to jail for 4 years because he made a mistake on his mortgage application. So there is certainly precedent for this. And it's particularly interesting when Letitia James brought an almost identical case against Donald Trump, in New York in a civil context. And so, I do think that when you certify that something is true and there's something in there that's false like that, you would expect that the Attorney General of the state of New York would be more careful.
You see, this is another example of why the world has become crazier and crazier and has gotten to a point where we are living in times that are so uncertain. Think about how people feel, just even in their financial future, their retirement savings as an example. And that's why I want to share a story with you. I referred my mother-in-law to this company called Lear Capital. Why? Because she was so concerned about her retirement, and they educated her from day one, no selling, just learning about how she could take her hard-earned cash and put it into precious metals investing. And yes, if you're a person who wants to take possession of gold and silver, these are the people you want to learn from because they are here to help you. And I'm a true believer because, guys, let's just get real. We cannot depend on the federal government to make the best decision for me or you financially. And that's why you got to protect your hard-earned cash by calling Lear Capital today. And get this, because you're a follower of mine, because I know you like to watch me every day, they are giving my followers a $20,000 signing bonus on a qualified purchase. All you have to do is call them 1-800-920-8388. That number again is 1-800-920-8388. You could click the link in the description below by going to leardevori.com. I'm telling you, you're going to be thankful that you had a conversation with them today. Yeah, I don't actually buy that she would be more careful because I think the type of individual who would be willing to campaign on the idea of going after a former president at the time, I think that takes a certain individual who is dirty, who has a couple of skeletons in the closet, who's had some crimes on their record, but has been swept under the rug, if you guys follow what I'm saying. And so it's no shocker for me. Now, again, will she be convicted? I guess we'll just have to see, but I'm not buying that yet.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country.
Okay, that's a good case of more hypocrisy, obviously, and she really believed in the rule of law. She would have never targeted the president. Let's just be real about it. But this is her reaction, her video, as she reads from a script. And now this takes us to our next update. This is a federal judge blocking President Trump from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago. Can you believe it? Just when you thought they were going to be able to allow him to do the right thing here, which is to protect federal assets, which he definitely has the authority to do so, I guess we had some hopeful thinking. So let's hear more on this and I'll deliver my reaction. Take a listen.
Breaking tonight, a Chicago district judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's effort to deploy the National Guard to that area. It comes as National Guard troops have already arrived. Correspondent Garrett Tenney reports on the case from Broadview, Illinois again tonight. Good evening, Garrett.
Brett, good evening to you. Based on this ruling, the National Guard will have to stand down less than 24 hours after arriving and being deployed to the Chicago area. Moments ago, federal judge April Perry explained her decision in part, saying, quote, "I have found no credible evidence that there is a danger of rebellion in the state of Illinois." Throughout the hearing today, Perry tried to drill down exactly what National Guard troops will be doing during their deployment, and Justice Department attorneys repeatedly could not answer her in any sort of detail. Perry, a Biden appointee, also questioned the credibility of the administration's claims the Guard is needed because of violent protest at the Broadview ICE facility, asking, what if DHS folks are not tethered to reality in their assessment of events? She then noted that federal prosecutors have now dropped charges against 4 of the 5 individuals arrested for allegedly resisting or assaulting officers. This indicates to me a certain lack of credibility of both your affiant and DHS in general, Perry said.
Okay, let's just be clear about something. She says she does not have any credible evidence to prove that ICE officers are being attacked, and this warrants the president's response because 4 out of the 5 perpetrators were let go. We know the way justice system works in Chicago. All they do is let criminals go. You think they were actually going to lock up someone who ran ICE officers off the road? We're talking about at the city level. Absolutely not. Now, could the FBI or the DOJ prosecute them and probably be successful? Absolutely. So I find that to be judicial tyranny at its best. This is another exhibit proving why that term is becoming more of a reality as the days go on. But there's more. Take a look.
Despite the judge's ruling today, Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino tells Fox News it's a temporary setback and that Operation Midway Blitz will not be slowing down.
These operations are going to continue. We've been up against temporary restraining orders back in Los Angeles, as you know, and we fully expect that here.
We're told the Justice Department will be appealing this ruling almost immediately. And this afternoon, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker acknowledged that this fight is not over.
I mean, there are constitutional limits to what the president can do, and we expect the president to follow the law. Do I also expect that they will push the law to its absolute limit, maybe even stepping over the line? Yes, and we will push back.
Judge Perry said she's granting this temporary restraining order in part, so we are still waiting to find out which parts of the state's request she will be denying and what will happen to the 200 Texas National Guard troops that are already here in Illinois. Brett?
Listening to this story, it really reminds me of this idea I've been thinking about and really had a good discussion with a great friend. Why is the president doing these people of Chicago and Portland and Los Angeles a huge favor, even the people of Memphis? This is a huge favor from the president. He doesn't have to send National Guard troops to these cities. Politically, this is great for him, no question. He campaigned on cracking down on crime, and he's following through. But he really doesn't have to do this. Think about how many presidents promised they were going to do something and never actually did anything. This guy has signed more executive orders dating all the way back to World War II. So in that context, at the end of the day, if he cannot deploy these troops to these cities, and he is unsuccessful in applying the same concept that he did in D.C. and these other cities, it seems to me that these cities are just going to have to fail because you cannot ask any more from the president based on what he's already done up to this point to help these people. And we know people are not going to appreciate what he has done, especially the mayor of Chicago. Take a listen.
This is not about immigration. This is about a president who wants to enact authoritarianism in this country, where the rule of law doesn't apply to him. and to one individual alone. And that's why I'm doing everything in my power to defend the people of this city and to lead a resistance that, quite frankly, is desperately needed to protect our democracy and our humanity.
The White House claims, this president claims, that it's the residents of this city that need protection from the federal.
See, this goes back to the main question at the end of the day. How can a lower court judge have the authority to override the president of the United States? That is the question. According to the Supreme Court, no, they don't have that authority. And that's why the Ninth Circuit in Oregon, already ruled against them. In regards to that TRO, they were skeptical that they even had the authority to issue that TRO to begin with. So will the Seventh Circuit do the same thing? Well, we're going to find out here. Okay, and now we move to our next update, and this is regarding the president and this peace proposal that's been accepted by Israel and Hamas. And the only story there, and we're still waiting for it to see if the hostages actually make it home, and then there's much more to talk about. But before we get there, the real question that's being debated in the media is, does the president deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, which is scheduled to be announced tomorrow? Take a listen to this.
All right, so Fetterman's hedging a little bit, saying, well, if you can solve Ukraine too, then he's a shoo-in. But if President Trump is not awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for solving this, and that is if this goes through, for solving this, untying this Gordian knot that's existed between Hamas and Israel for so long, if he is not awarded the Nobel Prize, what does that say about the process?
Well, I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but who cares? The Nobel Peace Prize has been useless for generations. Ever since they gave Barack Obama the Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing. It is the Democratic Peace Prize. It is the Liberal Socialists of Europe Peace Prize. It has nothing to do with actually solving problems or getting things done outside the scientific realm, where I think that they actually do good work. But when it comes to peace, no. It is a totally lopsided establishment, old school view of the world. And here's the key factor. What got this agreement done was the fact that Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff are outsiders. Anybody who followed the regular diplomatic playbook would have made no progress in the Middle East. They'd have succumbed to the temptation that the only way to peace is through a Palestinian state. Donald Trump did the exact opposite and worked around that issue to bring peace to the Middle East and now Gaza. The Nobel Peace Prize, who cares?
You know what? He makes a phenomenal point. I didn't see it that way, to be honest with you. But when you really look into the Nobel Peace Prize and the people who have received it, because there's only been 4 presidents in history, and the fact that they did give it to Barack Hussein Obama, the deporter-in-chief, the bomber-in-chief, for literally doing nothing, then that kind of makes sense exactly on what he said. So at a minimum, he should have already received one based on that standard alone, especially if you factor in the Abraham Accords. And guess who made that point? Tim Pool, who was on the live show earlier today. And if you missed it, here's what he had to say about it.
Oh, I think he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize just for getting elected, just like Barack Obama did. If the standard for winning the Nobel Peace Prize is just being president, then Trump has certainly gone above and beyond with, for instance, the Abraham Accords and now this Hamas-Israel peace deal. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, Obama bombed a bunch of American citizens and took their lives extrajudiciously as well. So, I mean, the record and history of the Nobel Peace Prize, especially with Kissinger winning it, I think isn't as important as a lot of people make it out to be. I think the record speaks for itself. And we're going to see, I hope this deal lasts. 6 hours ago, there was bombings happening in Gaza, and hopefully those are the last bombings that ever happened in that region. But it's still a very kind of unstable situation from everything I'm assessing.
I heard, and this, I could be wrong, but did you know that Barack Obama has the record for most children killed by a Nobel laureate?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm not shocked by it.
I mean, I think Kissinger.
Yeah, so when we continue to hear people obviously shoot this idea down, I mean, it just shows you where they stand because they probably have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, a wild thing happened where Senator John Fetterman went on to Fox News. They asked him the same question, but he actually put conditions on whether or not Trump should receive one. Take a listen.
Do you think the president deserves a Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, I mean, if this sticks, I think the whole point of having a Nobel Peace Prize is for ending wars and promoting peace. And I'm going to make a direct appeal to the president. You know, I hope he chooses to provide the tomahawks to the Ukrainians too, and give them the tools that they need to push back against the Russia. And if he brings the Ukrainian war to its end, I'll be the Democrat leading the committee for his Nobel Prize Peace for ending both of these terrible wars.
Okay, so let me get this straight. We know that Senator John Fetterman is pro-Israel, but that's not enough for him. He wants the president to do something that is almost near impossible if you think about it, because he cannot control Putin. Why is that? Because there is no going back for him at this point. What can Trump truly offer Putin at this point to make him stop? Nothing. And some people may argue more pressure, more sanctions. We don't know that's actually going to work definitively. And so to put that on the president, I think is immature, let alone the throw in the weapons, of course. I mean, that's just a ridiculous condition. Now, and usually when we hear Senator John Fetterman, we usually, like his takes, but this one was terrible. Now, here is Chuck. Now, here is CNN asking another Democrat.
Do you think that Trump deserves credit for this?
Yes, if it works.
There are people on the right calling for him to get the Nobel Peace Prize. What do you say to that?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Even though the president has done more in his first 10 months in office than Biden did in 4 years. Got it. Even though he's been instrumental in ending 8 wars. And if you don't know all of them, what about Pakistan and India? That's had to be a huge one there. But nobody wants to give the president credit. When I say nobody, I'm talking mainstream media and Democrats. The liberal establishments is what we should call them. That all they do when they wake up in the morning is they seek to undermine this presidency. And all they continue to do is really alienate themselves from the average working American because they can see the hypocrisy bleeding through. Now, here's what the president had to say earlier about the possibility of a Nobel Peace Prize. Take a listen.
I know this, that nobody in history has solved 8 wars in a period of 9 months. And I've stopped 8 wars. So that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine. I know this. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives. And that's the thing that bothers me so much about the Russia-Ukraine. 7,000 people are dying a week. Young soldiers. They're almost all soldiers of Ukraine and Russia. So in theory, it doesn't affect us, no, but it's a terrible thing. And we'll get that solved too. But nobody has ever done 8 wars. Nobody's done 8 wars in 30 years, let alone 9 months.
The difference maker for me, when the president acknowledges this is about saving lives, you know he's got the messaging right. You know his purpose behind this is right. I never heard that from Joe Biden. I haven't heard that from Democrats. How many times have they said, we need to wrap this war up because too many people are being killed? They don't say that very often. What they're saying is what they don't like about what the president is doing or what he hasn't done. They spend more time complaining and screaming and crying, and they're not solution oriented. In fact, what they want to do is continue to pad their pockets. They're only about the money. No principles, by the way. But that is the political climate that we live in. Now, here's the president also commenting on the bomber-in-chief, Barack Obama, and the fact that he received a Nobel Peace Prize. Take a look.
Peace Prize for way less than you did, and President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize
He
for
got a
way
prize
less.
for doing nothing.
Exactly.
Obama got a prize. He didn't even know what he got. He got elected, and they gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing but destroying our country. No, he was not a good president. The worst president was Sleepy Joe Biden. But Obama was not a good president.
Are you going to do something with the
They
Hezbollah?
gave him a prize. How many months after he won the election, then they gave him the Peace Prize, right?
It was right
Before he
afterwards.
was elected.
Are you going to take
My election was a much more important election.
Well, some could definitely argue that point from the president, because you have to imagine if Kamala Harris became the president, think about where we would be. Just think about it. You think the Israel-Hamas war would actually have light at the end of the tunnel right now? I mean, you think illegal criminal aliens are being deported out of this country? Absolutely not. So I respect that from the president. He's just telling it how it is. And so I want to hear you tell me how it is based on what we discussed in this video, your thoughts, starting with the question, do you believe the president is owed a Nobel Peace Prize? But more importantly, answer this, do you believe he will actually get one? My answer is he probably won't. Secondly, what do you make of the federal judge and or lower court judge blocking the president from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago? They're already there. They're just not allowed. obviously, to do anything at this moment. And some may say it's going to go to the 7th Circuit and then thrown out. So let me know how you guys feel about that. And obviously, the big one here, Big Tish has finally been indicted. Clearly, where there is smoke, there is fire. She campaigned on going after the president, and now the president is going after her. Do you see anything wrong with what's happening to her case? Let me know your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. Now, in our next video, in case you missed it, they caught the arsonist who they believe was behind the California Palisades fire that obviously left so many people displaced, led to a celebrity event scamming these homeowners out of relief funds, and a governor who is still yet to actually help them. So if you guys missed out on that update and more, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.